I'm Glenn Bilpu, and this series is Sketching on Location with Glenn Bilpu. Now, we're going to be taking and going out of the studio. We'll be on location each week for each class with a variety of subjects, landscapes, children, adults, buildings, shrubbery, everything that we deal with in dealing with sketching. I try to cover a lot of material, but if you approach this as a real learning process, it really is. You're building one thing on top of the next, on the top of the next. Now, this is approached so that you can do this anywhere. It doesn't need to be any particular fancy location. We go out on location, so the problems of being on location, the wind, the noise, that's all part of the process. Sketching anywhere, anytime, wherever you happen to be. And we'll have a great time, and let's see what happens. Okay, in these lessons, we're dealing with this great landscape back here. A lot of times, you can draw and do works anywhere. So the first two lessons are dealing with point to point, and then thumbnails. So let's get started with the lessons and see what we're doing. Okay, point to point. Now, the thing with point to point, it's really all drawing, of course, starts at a point. You have to start somewhere. But this is different in that, and I'm not sure if I can coin the term, but the idea is that you take and begin at one point and you just slowly add on to it, like a jigsaw puzzle visually. And you really have to learn how to take and see two-dimensional. But this is a beginning point. And also the materials you use. This is just a 6B graphite pencil, nothing fancy, but material doesn't matter. Could be working with a pen, I could be working with a brush. It's all the same. And I use this as a approach that I do even with a figure. And that it allows you to take and get something done where you really don't know how long you got. Okay, so now I'm taking and looking down this railroad track. And I think what the buildings I'm going to start with, maybe they're 2/10 of a mile away. And so I'm just picking a point, and it's really the top of one of those buildings down there. You can see there's two sort of reddish buildings down there. Well, I'm picking the one that's the farthest back. I'm just picking a point. And so I'm taking and I'm starting with, that's literally putting a spot. Now, as we're doing this, you're going to see I'm just picking a line. I'm just taking and saying, okay, I've got this line here. And then drawing that. Now, from there, I'm taking and as I come across that, I'm going to take and go the opposite direction. Now, the critical part here are the angles. Now, I look at this, maybe go from here to here. Now, right away, I look at where that line of the roof is. It's hitting another roof. I can't really see what it is. It's a building behind, but all I see is there's a short line. And so I look at the length of that line compared to that line. And I can come across here now. I'm going to take and use a line for taking and coming across through here. So all I'm doing is adding to the thing as I do. Now, I'm working with a very broad pencil here. I can actually take, and as I'm doing this, I can combine working with tone. In other words, I could have taken that line and I could have made this a bit broader and created the shadow at the same time. So now, and as I come into the next thing here, I'm carrying that shadow idea over. Now, as I'm going to take and start to draw up. So as I look at the corner of the building here, I'm looking across to see where it is going through in here. It's going across.
So I look ahead to where I'm going. So I'm going from one point to the next. And this is roughly, I think it's about right there. So in doing this now, I'm taking and being very careful about the length of each one of these lines. And I'm going quite slow. So now I'm going to take from that, and this, as I draw that line, now I want to take that line. I'm thinking of that line going to there. But I'm also coming down and seeing where that line would go down here, because I'm going to use the broad side of the pencil to take and do this. So as I'm thinking about where I'm going, I'm looking across this way. So I'm looking ahead. Okay. Now, generally speaking, I tend to do this, if I put a dot there. So I'm going to know where I'm going from there to there. So now I can just take and using the broad side of the pencil, and I'm taking and putting a line going all the way down to in here. Okay. Now, that building back there has got a slight angle to it because we're looking at the side of it. So I'm coming back, so it's all in shadow. So I'm just going to take and drop this whole side in shadow again. Now, later on, we're going to be dealing lessons where we're talking broad pencil technique. So in many respects, that's what I'm doing right now. So the next layer here is I'm taking a look at this line to that line, seeing where the next building, the top layer of the building is. Well, how long is that line compared to this line from here to here to here? So now I'm going to take and going from that, and the broad line, this is actually going to, I can see this is going to go this way, but I'm adding this layer here now, and I'm just taking and going there. Okay. Now, the roof up in the top sticks out a lot farther. So it's coming out over here. And it's actually with a slight angle, this is in perspective, but so far away, it's actually hard to see. So that's just the line. Now I go across, and I'm looking now, okay, how long is this line in comparison to what I've got going here? And I'm going to think of and when I'm sort of doing a cross thing, thinking, well, okay, this is going over, it's about here. So I'm looking carefully where everything is at. And this is really quite a ways away from me, so the fact that it would probably normally be in perspective a little bit, but it's so subtle and we're seeing so little of the things. We're essentially seeing the front. So I'm going to go from here over to there. Now, there's a certain quality a lot of times in doing. Now I'm going up here and I'm looking at the roof. There's a quality that doing a point to point. A lot of times the drawings can, particularly if you're working fairly fast, they can have sort of an eccentric look to them. What I mean by that, it can look a little bit more casual, look a little looser. Now I have to vary the thickness of my line. Now I'm coming down, so from here, coming down to this point, and then I'm going across from that over to here. So you can see now everything I'm doing really is dependent on just adding one line to the next line to the next line. And I can make this shadow a little bit stronger coming through. Now there's some windows back in here. There's 3 windows. And I'm going to take and make in the center. And so I'm starting up rather light now. And within the window, there's the light area, and I'm taking it at this point, the distance that I'm looking at, it's really just more of a suggestion. Now, there's bands of colored marble and cement that are going through here. So I'm going through the next layer. I look at this. Now I'm going to give this actually the next layer a little bit of tone so that we can actually see the distinction between points. And get another layer. And so now I'm coming through, and that layer, I can see where it lines up with the others. Coming through. Now, here we went down here, all the way down here to start with. So now I'm going to take and looking to see where there's some windows in here, one particular dark window. So I'm looking, okay, how far down is that compared to what we've got going through here? Fairly close. And there's another window in the center. And so I can take, and as I'm doing this now, I'm going to draw the other side down. And I get a sense, this part where I want to go is about here. So everything is comparison, comparison, comparison. There's windows in here. Through. Like I say, this at this point when you start dealing with windows that far away, and this is just a small fragment of the whole picture. There's a horizontal, there's dark there, and these are doing this. And this is going to become, the next window is considerably smaller. And we can see that we've got, now all of this, now these windows are actually have white cornices around them. So I'm going to take and drop a secondary tone now going through. Now, if I wanted to indicate that these were bricks, I would take and start out giving some kind of indication that this is a brick, even though I'm taking and putting an overall tone. And trying to leave a little bit of the white around it. Pretty casual. Now, if this wall goes on, there's a palm tree right in front. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to take and indicate the palm tree. And this is dark, it's in front. In fact, we get a whole bunch of foliage that is coming down through and actually covers up pretty much where I got right to the point there. Now, one of the things that working with a pencil on paper is that, which a camera would be hard pressed to do. I can just say there's a big tree. I shouldn't say a tree. There's a telephone pole in the way here. Well, I just ignore it. Camera can't ignore it, but I can. Now, okay, so now I've just blocked in that area. I'm going to go back now to all of this other stuff over here. And I can come through, and part of this is this is where I'm just taking and working with values. It's coming down. You can see there's different shadow patterns in here. And at this distance, I can barely really see what's causing those patterns. As I'm going over. Now, when you're working this way, again, one of the advantages is that, and like a lot of times I'm in the airport, and I'll take and be doing a drawing, and I'll take and starting with just a simple figure. I've used examples where I take and starting a drawing with the person that's sitting in front of me by just drawing with their ear. And then ending up doing the whole interior of the airplane just by taking and adding on to that initial ear. So I'm being fairly free about this. I guess these are, when I come down here now, I can see some trees in background here. The tones I'm using right now are fairly equal value-wise. And coming down, I look here, we've got some tones coming across. I'm just blocking in values. Now, the more I look at this, I can see that the shadows that you can see in the drawing is showing up. We got some buildings back in here. Let's say windows. We can see that it's creating a perspective line. Well, I wasn't drawing in the perspective line. The perspective line is just a byproduct of all of the lines that I've been taking and putting down. Just by being careful. Now, the tree here it's a dark tree, but the shadows behind it are dark. So I'm taking and dropping those tones down. And so you can see it now, I've silhouetted that tree. And there's some other darks in here that I can take and add through. So you can see this is not a complicated approach to taking and doing things. It's quite simple. The main element of it in terms of drawing now is that it's how careful are you in terms of what you're putting, one point to the next point to the next point. And so as the drawing progresses, now this is a point that comes up that as I progress with the drawing, it ends up you getting more elements that you can use to compare with. Then it starts to become a little bit more, you can be a little bit looser. So now what I'm seeing coming across here is a fence that is going through. So I'm just going to take and we're moving over a little bit farther. We've got the trees, and here there's a fence coming across, which is about on my eye level. So I'm thinking of this line, and feel some more trees in here. These are pretty far back now. We have these tones that are back in here, and now, right at this point, I'm going to take and I will draw in a little bit of what we do see in terms of some of the crud in this environment here. But what I see here is a telephone pole slightly leaning, and I look to see where is it at? Going, oh, it's up in here. And it starts here, and it's leaning up to here. So I'm just going to take and I look to where I'm going. So I draw this telephone pole. Now we've got crossbars. Points. Now, going this way, I'm going to take, and behind here now we have other buildings that are coming through right at this point. And again, I'm looking at distances, comparing. Well, like I said, anybody could do this. This takes no particular skill. What it takes is patience and just being careful. Well, that line's a little heavy. But I can come in and I can block in some of these windows, and the overall pattern of these windows is coming down this way. So there's several stories worth of windows in here. Okay, now another one coming down. And then we have another building coming up. And this is in here. Now, same time as I'm coming across through here, we take in, there's some more trees. So I try to capture the general shapes and values. But working with pencil, sometimes you have to take in and translate things to make them read. So now we go from here, some more bushes, but it can bring up this way. Notice I'm drawing these fairly simple flat patterns, which is they're far away. That's actually what we see. So now I'm going across over here. This is quite a distance. This would actually, the next line would take and go off the page over here. So I'm just going to take, I'm thinking, okay, this part of it is here. This building going through here. Now, rather than start filling in all of this, now here I'm going to come back because there's a series of trees. There's light posts. We have a post coming up through here. One of the things is, as you look at the photograph, of course, I'm not drawing from the photograph, by the way. I'm drawing from the light. You can hear the birds in the background and stuff, maybe. Okay. A little bit of reality here. Now, but as you're doing this, I can take, just with my eyes, I can take in, it's like a telephoto lens. I can see a distance down there. So I'm going to come through some more trees in here. And coming down. So now I'm taking and drawing a general line for this fence that's coming across. And I'm using a little bit of a jagged line here. Now, there's also a railroad track here. So I have to take and judge the distance, the size of where the track is here. Now, this is the part that actually can become tricky. I'm looking the distance down two-dimensionally from here compared to what's going on up here. So I'm taking that point there, okay? Now, there's actually two fences. There's another fence here, and then there's a more of a one that's a little bit more rusted, or maybe not rusted. It's got a lot of shrubbery stuff growing on it, old, dead. This winter here. Okay, now coming through. Also, we have a shopping cart here that is coming up above here. So I'm just gonna now here I'm drawing the shopping cart. There's a dark line there, and in reality, it's a shiny, well, not so shiny, but it's light colored. But to make it read, I need to take and draw it with darker lines. And so I'm starting to indicate where do I see the shopping cart in compared to some of the fencing up here. Okay, so now I'm going to take and I come down here to this part of the building. Actually, I'm going to go down to where this part of the building in here. We got more things in front here. Another building that's coming across. So I can use these now as elements to help me judge the size of some of this fence material that